Hey, what's going on? This is Rad, your host for SOFREP Radio, and I have an awesome guest today. I have been asked so many times, Rad, how do I write a book? Rad, how do I submit? Rad, what if I have an idea and I can't bring it to the fingertips to write it out or type it out, but I've been through it? How do I get that out there, right? Well, my guest, before I introduce you to him, knows all about that. However, I got to remind you to check out our merch store, right? It's just an anthem that I have. Check out the merch store, sofrep.com/merch. The branded goods, the branded items. You guys are tagging us all over the internet on it. So thank you so much for that. It's a lot of love right there, right back at you, okay? And then also our book club. So sofrep.com/book-club is where you can get into the books that we have picked out for you that we think that you would like from all the SOFREP team here at the house of sofrep.com. I also like to give a shout out to my producer, Anton, who works so hard behind the scenes, and Martin and Brandon Webb, who allow me this opportunity to come on board and host these awesome guests. And I teased you a little bit. I said I got a guy on that knows a little bit about writing a book or two, an author. He also knows a little bit about serving in our military. Randall Surles. How did I say your last name? Did I say that right?
It's Surles, and most people call me Randy.
Randy Surles, former Sergeant Major.
7th group.
Seventh group, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, so no small little task. Also, we have a mutual friend who hooked us up. Jim Johnson, former Colonel, 82nd Airborne. He's like, Rad, get Randy on your show. I want to hear it. And I was like, no problem, sir. Salute.
Yeah. Jim heard me on another podcast, not to talk up your competition, but Military Mentors podcast. I was on that one, and he hit me up on my emails and said, hey, my father's writing a memoir. His father was a 3-star general, same name, Jim Johnson. And he's like, can you help me out? And so we had a couple sessions. We worked through it. To tell you the truth, they did a pretty good job without my help and they had worked on it for a long time. And I helped them with kind of the self-publishing part of it more than anything. I'll give them their kudos. And so it took us about 1.5 years to get it all done and published. And unfortunately, sadly, his father passed away like a week after it was published. He got it out there. That's what he wanted to do. He was very emotional when he did his first book signing at the Airborne, 82nd Airborne Museum, and then he passed away like a week later. But we got the book out there.
Yeah, and the book is called Static Line: An Airborne Infantryman's Career by Lieutenant General retired James H. Johnson Jr. He wrote me a nice email personally. I got one from his dad, Lieutenant General, and he's like, Rad, I love your show. I love how you're doing it. I look forward to it. I have a book coming out. And we were corresponding back and forth. And when Jim hit me up, I was like, am I talking to the same Jim? Because there's two Jim Johnsons. I'm like, wait, yeah. Lieutenant General, but you guys are both like officers and both over like the 82nd Airborne and just a legacy in his own right. So shout out to Jim, who's going to probably be listening to this and, drop him an email and sliding into our DMs. Hey, go ahead and slide into our DMs anytime, Colonel. No problem. All right. It's just like that, right? Here at SOFREP, we reach out to everybody. I just want anybody to feel like they can reach out and say hi. And you seem to be that same vibe, Randy. Now, you just mentioned that you were the Sergeant Major for 7th Group.
Yeah.
So you're infantry, airborne, special forces. My father was former 19th Special Forces. That's his flag and beret over my shoulder there. So I just want to say I love you. All right. And so thank you for everything. Son of the SF right here. I loved, my dad told me, Aaron, he's like, I'm sorry that I exposed you at such a young age to all this stuff. And I was like, why, Dad? I love it. And he's like, that's why. And that was prior to him passing, but he was joking. I do a lot of war games here in Utah. In fact, that's a big thing I do is, op force commander or going out and taking a bunch of guys in the desert or gals, and we just hunt each other. And that's where he was coming off with that whole, like, geez, what are you doing out here? It's like, what you wanted me to do, Yoda. So I look at you SF guys, as a Yoda. So I really appreciate all you do out there. And, boy, now you've transitioned from being a a sergeant major in a team, an A team, probably A team, B team, all these different teams. What was the most memorable thing that you can think of right now from your 30 years?
So, well, I mean, I don't want to talk too long on this because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. But
Sure.
the thing about Jim Jones also was,
Jim Johnson.
Jim Johnson. God dang it, Jim Johnson.
No, it's okay. I'll drink the Kool-Aid. No problem.
No, that's okay. We got into first name basis real quick, so I wasn't saying his last name a lot. But the thing about me and Jim Johnson is I was in Operation Just Cause. I was there. I got in the late '80s, and I jumped in with the Ranger Battalion, and his dad was there. His dad was in Vietnam. It was in Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and he was in the 82nd too when they jumped into Panama in Operation Just Cause. So back to your question though, I was serving as an E8 promotable in the embassy in Colombia for 3 years, and I actually made sergeant major there, and we had three hostages, civilian hostages of the FARC that were there forever for over 1,000 days, and they got rescued while I was there, and that was I didn't have a significant part of that. I wasn't like on the ground, like pulling security when they're getting pulled out of the helicopter or anything like that. But I was helping out with all the contingency plans and getting them back to the States and things like that. And that was super rewarding.
That's a feel good moment for extracting the U.S. Hostages. Now the FARC, that is the organization down in South America. Is that what you're talking about? Right?
Yeah, it's the communists. Well, the guerrillas in Colombia that were fighting the regime. Yeah.
Did you also cross paths with Colonel Nightingale?
I did not.
You did not. He was down there all the time. I just interviewed him, as a matter of fact. Another, friend of Jim's there, and I thought, well, maybe you guys might have crossed paths as well. But dang, dude. So, what about jumping out of an airplane? You ever had any scary situations where you were like, okay, I pulled through that, I bicycle kicked, or I made it?
I hit a flagpole jumping into Panama. I broke my leg.
What?
I was one of the last guys out of the plane. I ended up crawling a couple miles to get help, while the battle was going on, right? So that kind of sucked. But that was the most significant one. My last 3 jumps, I was on, I don't know if you're familiar, they have the 4 jump rule. Like if you can't jump every 3 months, then you can jump 4 times at one day or 2 days or something and catch up so you don't lose pay. And so when I left 7th Group and I was going to a unit, I was going to Italy to work in Africa, Army Africa, and I wasn't going to be in jump status anymore. And I had to catch up or I would have had to pay back whatever, 8 months.
Lame.
Pay. Yeah. And so I did 3 times that day, and it was just a mess. Like it's the first time I ever had to pull my reserve. Just all kinds of stuff was going on, but I didn't get hurt. So the only time I got hurt was that one time in Panama when it counted, right? And I
really
bust my butt in Ranger School on a rock or so, and I had to limp around with a bruised ass.
Bruised ass? No, I feel you. Geez, let's see, 1980s. Is that like going after Noriega? Is that when you went into Panama?
89, yeah. December 89, December 20th, 89.
That's right. And let's see, my friend Mad Max Mullen went in. He's former Ranger Hall of Fame guy. He went in there, and you guys, I'm just talking to a whole bunch of you guys, it's like, holy cow, but you broke your leg on a flagpole.
Yeah. Yeah. My chute got caught on the flagpole actually, when kind of made me fall a little harder, but yeah, it sucked.
Holy cow. Okay. So you've gone through that. You've been all over the world. You're like, okay, it's time for me to start transitioning out. You've made it to the top. You're sergeant major, right? You're just not sergeant major of like the Army, right? There's like a little bit more up there, but sergeant major, command sergeant major, but still you're at the top. You're just going there. And now where are you at the top of today? What are you doing? And how did that transition happen?
Yeah. So, whenever you're in group 7 in special forces, you're traveling a lot. And especially before phones and tablets, you brought a bucket of DVDs or before that VHS. And I always brought a box of books because they've gone for 6 or 8 months. I said, okay, I'm going to read some professional development books, some fun books, fantasy, science fiction, military thriller, some business books. And this is my goal. And I go to Barnes and Nobles a couple weeks before and buy a bunch before you get them on Kindle. Right now, everything's on my Kindle. and I just love to read, right? And so I knew I needed a degree before I got out. I got a history degree like 15 years in. And then I tried to get a master's in international relations. I finished about halfway. I was like, what am I going to do with this? And I tried to get an MBA, and I said, what am I going to do with this? I don't really want to do that. And so then I found a creative writing master's program. So that's what I did. And I got my master's a couple of years before I got out. And that's what I thought I was going to do, right? I thought I was going to write books. What happened was I got divorced. I hiked across Spain during my terminal leave, and I met my current wife. And I also got an email while I was hiking across Spain on my phone that said, "Hey, we're looking to train people how to be editors in our story grid system." Is what I ended up training under. And I said, "Well, that probably helps me write. This sounds like a thing I should do." And it's all coming together. And I signed up. And I went there on my terminal leave as soon as I got back. And I got certified as this editor, which, kind of helped me with my MFA creative writing, kind of merged together. And I started editing books as we went into COVID, which was when everyone started writing books because they didn't leave their house.
Right. Opportune time, right? Yeah. Strike while it's hot.
Yep. So I did that for a while. I started reconnecting with my old military buddy, Sgt Maj. I helped him. We were working on a book together.
That's Operation Pineapple Express, right? Yeah. Is that what we're talking about?
It was right there.
Oh yeah, right above your head.
Yep. So we were working on a different book first, though, for like a year. Mm-hmm. In fact, the remnant, that book changed a couple times, but his next book is coming out later this year. I think the final title is "No One's Coming to Save You," a book about how Green Berets get shit done. Or something like that.
Self-rescue, baby.
Yeah.
No one's coming to save us.
Yeah, so we worked on that for a while, and then Operation Pineapple Express, the Afghan evacuation happened. He was part of he started Operation Pineapple Express to get this guy Nizam out of Afghanistan, who was a Afghan soft guy who went through the American Green Beret course. And then he morphed that into helping get a bunch of others. I don't know the final numbers, a couple hundred, out through the Abbey Gate and until it blew up, obviously. And then about a month later, he got a book deal from Simon & Schuster. And he said, "Hey, I need your help." And I said, "Sure, what do you mean to do?" It was like, "I need you to do Sergeant Major stuff. I need you to organize and accountability and write and edit and do everything, all the coordinations and stuff."
And do everything, Sergeant Major stuff. Do everything.
Well, he's got a business he's got to run. He had a partner.
I love it.
And so he couldn't spend all his time on it, and he did take time off to do it. But I was helping him tweak it behind, along the way. And we got some bad deadlines. When you sign a contract to, with these publishing companies, usually you're like, "This is what I'm going to turn into you." And they're like, "Great." And if they give you an advance, they're like, "We'll pay you 1/3 up front. We'll pay you 1/3 when you give us the first draft, and we'll pay you 1/3 when it's published," or something like that. Every contract's different. And we got down to the wire where it was like 30 days before it's due, and we're only halfway finished because I sucked at a Sergeant Major, and I was like, "Hey, accountability, do 5 chapters this week," and he'd give me 2. And I'm like, "Hey man, we're falling behind." And then finally he's like, "Hey, we have to ask for an extension." I was like, "Well, I don't know anything about that. That's your deal." And when they asked for an extension, the guy was like, "We can do that, but here's how it goes. We were going to get it March 30th, and then we were going to look at it and give it back to you to do reviews, and then we were going to have a third draft, and by then we were going to have the cover, and we were going to have formatted, and we were going to have the marketing team go, and then we were going to launch on August 15th. If we give you an extension, all those dates are screwed up, and we already have books that are going to do stuff after yours that we planned, and we can't move those. So now your book gets moved to the end. We won't get published till December. So we'll get published in August when the annual day, a year after the day of the evacuation, which is when the best marketing's for it. And so we're going to miss that big day, and you're not going to get the rest of your bonuses because you missed your deadline." And so he hung up, and Scott's like, "Hey, let's go." And so we knocked the rest of the half book, like they returned in the day before, I think. And it was a mess. But
look at the power of motivation, right? Like here we are kind of slugging along, trying to get things done. All of a sudden, here's the fire under your ass. And you're like, I got to get this done. And what do you want? What happened? You guys got it done, right? So it could have got done. Could have got 3 a week, 4 a week. But all of a sudden but some people work better when it's like right at test time. Let's talk about my daughter for a second. Graduation, high school. She's kicking butt. She's graduating early. Then all of a sudden she's like, I'm doing so good. I'm going to slow down a little bit and maybe like do some things during school, which I should go to school. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, hey, you're down a quarter of a credit. And it's like, what are you doing? And she's sitting there doing packets and like essays and submissions and counselor cons. And it's like, what are you doing? I feel it. It's just like deadlines. And those of us that are not good at deadlines, boy, make sure you're signing a contract that works for you if you can't handle the deadline that's about to be presented.
That's the moral that's what I tell everybody. They're like, hey, can you help me get a book deal? And I'm like, you're the only one that can help yourself get a book deal. I can help you write copy to get an agent, to apply to a publishing company. I can help you do that. But your book stands on its own. Your concept stands on its own. And then when you get down to the deal, you need to figure out if that's really something you like. I didn't retire like that last month. Well, for the first 2 months, I was still working 50-hour weeks. I was like, when am I back in the Army? But that last month, I must have been working 80-hour weeks or something. It felt like it anyway. I was working my butt off to get it done.
Wow. And so what about you? What about a book just straight from you? I know you're reading and editing and copying and you have a partner that helps you do that stuff. But what about you? Do you have something specific that we could talk about, a book?
So I got a couple things. Let's talk. I do have a book that I'm working on, but I don't have a book out yet. I've probably been doing this stuff for, my full job after I got out, probably 6 or 7 years now. Before that, after I got my master's, I was doing some stuff on the side while I was still in the military. So I've been ghostwriting. In fact, I'm working on 4 books right now that I'm ghostwriting. I do book coaching, which is like someone comes to me with a concept and I'm like, and they say, how do I plan this out? How do I make an outline? How do I make this a compelling story? Where do I start? I also take full manuscripts. I finished my 3rd draft. My mom read it and she said she loved it. I want to get a professional look at it. And so they'll send me that and I'll look at it and I'll take I usually send 35 pages back and say, look, man, this is great. This could be better. The whole character arc could be changed a little bit to tweak a little bit and it'd be a lot better. And here's some suggestions on how to do that. So those are the 3 things I mainly do. Probably about 50% of the people I work with are military, ex-military veterans of some sort. I just wrote a memoir for a Vietnam vet who flew Sky Raiders in Vietnam, helping a lot of the Green Berets down there. It was a really great experience. The guy's like 85 or something. And he after he got out, he started a $1 billion gas station business and a bunch of other things. And he just wanted a memoir written about his life. And we worked on it for about 1.5 years. It should come out on Amazon like next year.
That's awesome.
It's called, I got it right here.
Yeah, let's pitch it.
Yeah, it's called Life in the Fast Lane. He also raced commercially planes in Nevada, and he blew his hand off. Not in war. He blew his hand off messing with his plane, and something defected, and he blew his hand off. And he had his big toes put up where his fingers are. And while he was healing, that year he still wanted to race, and so he had to get some guys had to come down and check him out so to make sure he wasn't a safety violation. And they go in the back seat, and he's flying, and they're like, "Well, you okay to do this?" He's like, "Yeah." And he's flying basically with one hand, like he's got the throttle and he's got the thing, and it's like he's and they're like, "Is this safe?" Like, shut up. And then they
sit back.
Yeah, then they land. He's like, "That was amazing. I've never seen anything like that in my life." And they're like, "But I don't know if I can as goodwill sign off on you as being safe." He's like, Did I meet all your checklists? He's like, "Well, yeah, but you only have one hand." He's like, I met your checklist? You don't want to be sued. You be checking yes. And then he flew. And he didn't win. He didn't win that year. I think he came in 5th or 6th. in his bracket, but he went on to fly later on after he got the operation and everything. He went on to fly. He's still flying. Well, he's still flying, but he flies with people now because after you turn over 85, I think they won't let you fly by yourself anymore for obvious reasons.
Sounds like a movie, dude.
Dude, I told him we needed to figure out how to make this into a movie. We're thinking of, I'll talk to him about it again. But
it reminds me of The World's Fastest Indian, which I was in, which is about an older guy that goes out to the Utah Salt Flats and races his Indian motorcycle and breaks the land speed record. But he's like, oh, where are these tires from? The safety guy, he's like, I carved them with my knife. He's like, what is this? Is this a cork? He's like, yeah, from a brandy bottle. It's in his gas tank. He's like, what the hell? Are we going to let you race? And he wound up breaking the land speed record, right?
Awesome.
And what a great movie to be a part of. I was really happy to be just
what was your part?
featured. I was a featured extra as an official who said driver safety meeting in 2 minutes in the background. And so, and then when they're doing the whole checkup, I have a clipboard and I got my pencil and no hair, right? Nothing at all. I look like babyface rat. And I'm like, just marking down when he's like, is this a brandy bottle? He's like, what are these? Did you cut these with your tires? So we filmed that for 7 days out on the Salt Flats. I got to work with Tony, Sir Anthony Hopkins, a really great guy. He's like, what's your name? I said, it's Aaron. He's like, say it one more time to me. I won't forget it. I was like, it's Aaron. He's like, I'm Tony. So the whole time we're sitting there, what's up, right? And then the scene happens, and one of the actors in the scene kept forgetting his lines, dude. Just kept forgetting it and blowing it off and laughing about it. And Tony's like, what's your motivation? He asked the actor, what's your motivation in the scene right now? He's like, listen, I got the part. I got the script. I flew here. I'm going to fly home, and there's going to be a paycheck in my mailbox. That's what he told Tony.
Oh, wow.
And Tony looks at me, and he goes, it was Aaron, right? That's like Tony, right? It's like, bro, give me the dialogue. Like Tony puts everything into his, he's like, what are you doing in the scene to me, dude? Do you know I have an Academy Award?
Awesome.
And that reminds me of your 85-year-old one-handed pilot friend, like Air Pirates or something. I don't know.
No,
that's awesome.
He is awesome. And he just flew to Africa. I mean, he's still flying around with his family. He's got his own plane and stuff. But yeah, so 50% of the guys I work with are military. They come to me all the time. Like, I just finished another one. It Was What It Was. It just came out. That was the name of the book. Was What It Was by Daniel Pace. And it was about his time in Iraq. And he was a Green Beret too. But before he was a Green Beret, he was in the Cav unit, and they went to Iraq. And he just wanted to tell a story because he didn't feel like the stories that were coming out were telling the story that he lived. So he wanted to tell his story about working in through with and the Iraqi leadership in a village that he was working with, or in a city that he was working in. So we worked through that. But the big thing with that is, right, it's all about your verbiage, the vocabulary you're using. How are you going to present that to people who aren't military, who aren't going to understand what you're talking about? And then it's also writing really compelling scenes, like starting your scene with something that the first sentence of every scene, of every chapter, hooks the audience with a bunch of questions. Who, what, where, why, when? Like, today was hell. Okay, that's a great start, right? That's a good sentence. Like, why is it hell? Where the hell is he? Who is this guy? You're asking all these questions. The more questions you can get the reader to ask, he's going to read the chapter. He's going to figure it out, right? And then if you end the chapter with another hook, he's like, but that wasn't my worst day. Or, just as an example.
Yeah.
Well, what worse could
What could be worse than that?
Yeah. So the idea is you hook them so that it becomes that one, and you're sitting in your bed and you're reading. It's like, I'm just going to read another chapter. It's like, oh shit, what worse could happen? It's like, and then, then you get another hook. And you're like, oh shit, I got to read this chapter first. And that's the idea. So a good example of this is there's an article, really old article about Anne Rice, Interview with a Vampire, all those horror books, right? And she wrote Interview with a Vampire, and she couldn't get anyone to buy the damn thing. And everyone's like, it's not as compelling as enough. It's not exciting. And she's like, I'm tired of these responses. I'm going to write a hook on every damn page. And when they turn the page, they can't stop but read the whole page before they
That's what I just wrote here. Hook them.
Every single page. I'm going to do it for every single page. So she wrote it, and then she got accepted, right? And they made it hardback, and it sold like hotcakes. And then when the paperback version, usually the paperback takes a year or so to come out, right? So the paperback comes, this is before digital books, right? Now digital books is all screwed up, but if you do it for the chapter and the scene, at least you're in the right direction. But for her case, when it came out in paperback, the formatting was not the same as a hardback. So the hooks weren't at the top of every page anymore. And the paperbacks weren't selling very well. And the publishers were like, I don't know what happened. She's like, I'll tell you what happened. You screwed up my books because I wrote a hook on every page. And now there's not a hook on every page because now it's the formatting's all weird. So they released these large paperback versions so that there's a hook on every page again. And then she sold a lot more books. So I don't know if that's urban legend, but it's a really good story and it makes sense. So I tell it whenever I can.
Yeah, no, that's good. I like to grow from I'm literally growing. I talk to so many folks who write books and these publishers who ask me to get their authors on all the time. And one of them's like, hey, Rad, let us know if you ever think about it. And I was like, well, who hasn't thought about it? Or I don't know. I have thought about it. And coming from a movie acting background, it's like, I'd rather write almost a movie, about things or something like that. But there's always the book to movie like Rambo, hello, First Blood.
But a good story is a good story, right? When I teach, so I'm part of the Skill Bridge program, which is, transitioning military, any service when they get out. If their chain of command lets them, they can spend 2 to 4 months with me and they don't have to work at all. They don't show up for work at all. They get paid their normal pay and we work online and we meet once a week and we talk about if they want to be a writer, I'll read their stuff. I'll read a chapter. We'll analyze their chapters and stuff like that. If they want to be an editor like I am, I'll say, this was my path. It's not everyone's path. This is my path. I will, you'll be my intern. I'll teach you what I know. We'll do some clients together. And then you go on your way. If I have to find your own clients, that's the hardest part. And then you can maybe make some money, at least hip pocket money, if nothing else, or make a career like I do. Either way. But I tell them all, I'm like, hey, you gotta, take this like a job. You gotta treat it like a job. You gotta figure out, your clients. You gotta figure out your finances, and then you got to do the work. And obviously, there's some balance in there. And it's just like, but also when you write books, it's the same thing nowadays because there's so many books out there. So there was this court case. You may not be familiar with it. I think it was 2020. Penguin was trying to buy Simon & Schuster, I think is what happened. A friend of mine just sent me this Substack, but I have the article that I read. And basically, the court was like, is this a monopoly if Penguin buys it? And because Penguin's a big one, Simon & Schuster's a big one. If one buys the other, or do now have the big 4 publishers instead of the big 5? And is this a monopoly? And it was like a $1.2 billion deal at the time or something like that. And so they brought all the evidence in and it was all available to the public. Like what's selling? Who's buying what? How many books are people selling? Right. And what they found was like 90% of the books out there don't sell more than 2,000 copies. Okay. So if you make $5 a copy, then you made $10,000. If you made $10,000 and you paid me to edit your book, you probably paid me $2,000, $3,000, depending on how many times you want me to edit it. If you paid a copy editor, you paid another $2,000, $3,000. If you got some book art, you got it paid $300 or $400 for that. If you got someone to format your book, you paid, and then all that goes up. And then what is the $10? You made $50. You made $1,500, right? So there's a lot of exceptions,
which is taxed. Yep.
There's a lot of exceptions, obviously. I mean, Tim Kennedy, Scars and Stripes, pretty well written book about Tim Kennedy. He had a big following. That's the thing right now, right? Writers like, I'm going to write a great book. People are going to read it. They're going to love it. I'm going to make a lot of money. You almost have to be in social media nowadays. You almost you have to kind of bring a following with you to the publisher if you want to do that. If you want to self-publish, you can do it that way too. But if you think about what publishers are doing for your marketing, they have a small marketing unit. They're going to push your book for that first month because that's when you're going to get most of your sales. They're going to push that book for the first month, but then they got to move on to the next book. Or the next book, right? And so they're not, after that first month, you're kind of it. You're going to be going on podcasts. You're going to be doing book signings, but it's all your money. You're going to fly there and get a hotel and book sign. You're going to call the podcast. You're going to call Rad and go, hey man, can I be in a book? And that's the way you're going to do it. If you don't go with a publisher, so publishers take like 85% of your profit, right? I don't know if everyone knows that, but that's a lot, right? But they're going to do the editing. They're going to do the art. They're going to do the title. They're also going to take final say on the title and the cover art and stuff like that. They're also going to, and then they got to do a timeout. You're frozen, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
Oh no, I'm still here. No, I'm just listening.
Okay,
yes, I'm still listening. No timeout. No, I'm just like, I am.
All right.
I am your student right now. And
right.
So is my listener.
So, where was I, man? Damn it.
No. There's no time now. So what you're saying is that 85% of profit goes to the publisher.
So when you get a publisher, you usually have to have an agent. It's a good idea to have an agent. Agent's going to take 15% of your profit. All right, around. So, depending on the contract, but that's average. Then if they find a publisher, the big five, the big four now, whatever, they're going to take 85% of your profit, and your agent's going to get 15% of that 15%. So now you're getting 13%. And
right.
And the publishing company is going to work on your cover for you, work on a little bit of a marketing thing going on. They're going to do the formatting, and they're going to get it into all the different, the hardback, softback, and paper or ebook and stuff like that. They're going to do a lot of that stuff for you, but their marketing is just a small window. And you can whatever you bring to the table, they're going to use that. They're going to thanks God you brought all this to the table. You'll read about people that they paid $1.5 million to Colleen Hoover for her book, probably more than that, because Colleen Hoover is probably the best-selling romance author ever. Last year she had 5 books on the bestseller list for a year. She's raking in the dough, right? But she is the TikTok queen. That's what they call her. And she started as a self-published author. She's selling on TikTok, and so when she goes to the table, she does her own marketing. I mean, they spent a little bit. They paid her a couple $1 million for the book, and then they spent maybe $20,000 for some marketing or whatever. But she's on TikTok. She's got all these followers, and she's selling the book. And they're just helping her with all the other stuff because she can't be bothered with it. And she probably gets a lot better deal than 85 because they know they're going to make millions of dollars from her. So they're like, how about you guys take 20? I don't know what the deal is, right? I have no idea what these big guys go. But if they've got guaranteed millions of dollars selling their books, I'll take 20% of that. So I'm sure they would too, right?
Right. Seriously. But then when you start thinking about 20%, you're like, let me think about that for a second here. Let's go with 50%.
Right.
It's like if you're that person and you're busting out and hustling and they've got top 5 spots in the top 10 categories of the bestseller of New York Times. And she's going out on all these.
We'll take 20% of 20 million any day, right? So
any day. Yeah. I mean, seriously, right?
Yeah. So, but the thing, going back to 90% of the books sell 2,000, not, only 2,000 in the life of their book. Now, I think that, I'm pretty sure that represents published books by publishers, not self-published books, right? So if you look at self-published books, there's this thing called 20 Books to 50K. It's a Facebook group. Awesome. Very generous with knowledge. Everyone in there wants to just help everyone else get better, be better authors, and do their books. I can't remember the man who started it. He sold it since its inception, but it started only 7 or 8 years ago. Started small. Basically, he was in all these forums for writers. Hey, how do you write better? Blah blah blah. He's like, hey, let's talk about finance. How do we market our books better? It's like, hey, you're not an artist. Write your book, they'll come. And he's like, I don't think that's true. I think if we market it, they'll definitely come. And they're like, and they kind of. I'm probably making light of the whole thing, but basically the way I understand the situation is they're like, you're not an artist, we don't want to talk about the marketing. So he made his own group, 20 Books to 50K. The reason it was called 20 Books to 50K was the idea is you sell 20 books, you market it correctly. So you're selling 8 or 10 books, a day from each of the 20. You'll make about 50K a year, which is a livable wage 8 years ago, right? So now it should be 20 books to 80K or something.
80, right? Yeah.
But books sell for more too, right? So that was the concept. And he started, everyone started joining. He's got, I don't know how many people are on his Facebook group now, but he has these big 1 week Vegas seminars with, all the publishers are coming and everyone trying to help the self-published people get self-published with various different new gizmos and apps and platforms and things like that. And they had one here in Sevilla, where I live. I live in Sevilla, Spain right now. And they had one here in Spain, a couple months ago. And I went to that one too. But that is, so even if you're published traditionally, you're giving 87% of your stuff away to your agent, your publisher. If you're publishing, you're self-publishing, and you're doing it, even if not doing it successfully, if you're doing it, you're making so Amazon's going to take 30% of your ebook. They're going to take 40% of your paperback. They're going to take 40 or 50% of your Audible book. And that doesn't include all the money you put into it with the editors and that artist for your cover and things like that. Now there's something that was the way 3 or 4 years ago. That was the way you self-publish. You're still giving away 30, 40%. But that's twice as much as you were making from them. So if you got your own following and you're building it because you got social media and TikTok and Instagram and your webpage, and you get a newsletter out, which has got your name list and all that stuff, and you start building this slowly over 4 or 5 years, getting your 20 books out there and building this list of people who enjoy your work, then you can ideally make a livable wage as a author. And some people are making hundreds of thousands of dollars as they never publish through traditional publishing because they make so much more money doing it themselves. And they built their own little author empire. Romance, this one lady has books based on Clint Eastwood movies with cyborgs, and they're romances. and she's making a lot of money doing that. And then there's one that has romances with different aliens, and each book starts with a different letter. And that's her deal. And she's written 26 of them or whatever. So, there are these things out there that people are doing. And then the Jack Reacher guy, he was a lawyer and he wanted to be a writer. And he wrote the Jack Reacher, and it's a pretty good book series, and it gets kind of repetitive, in my opinion, after a while. But, they got a TV series, they got movies with Tom Cruise in it. And they did really well. Even though, Rad, he's an English author. And he really kind of messed up the character, in my opinion, but no one seems to mind. Military people are kind of upset, that he is who he is. But I remember reading an article. He's like, yeah, so I made him, I made an MP because MPs have to arrest Green Berets and Delta Force and Rangers and SEALs. So they have to be badder than them. They have to be stronger and better shots, and they have to be able to take them. And I was like, what the hell is he talking about?
I don't know.
So the reason the MPs take us is because they get us when we're drunk, and there's 5 of them.
And they handcuff you.
So Jack Reacher was like a sniper. He won a sniper competition in the Army, and he's also 6'8" or whatever he is, 250 pounds. Yeah, he's just huge. But and then I saw another article where he said also the reason he travels around and buys new clothes every 3 days is because he was an officer. So the enlisted guys washed his clothes and shined his boots. So he didn't do any of that stuff. So he just got used to it. So when he started traveling around, that's why he bought new clothes everywhere he went. And I was like,
because he had a personal
maybe
purchase.
The British Army.
His personal purchasing, he's got to buy that body armor that they won't issue him.
And he did traditional publishing in Britain, and I don't know what the cut there is, but it's pretty similar, I imagine. But so self-publishing is kind of, and now the big thing. So 5 years ago it was like sell on Amazon, and now it's sell wide, sell on Ingram Spark, so you can get your books. Who speaks English? Well, the United States. What's the biggest country that speaks English?
The U.S.?
India.
Oh, wait, what? The biggest country, by population?
Population, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, I'm just thinking
India,
biggest, baddest.
Also got, I know. Sorry.
I'm branded.
I apologize for badly phrasing that. But you got 70% of the books in the world are read in English. And that's just because we produce more English books than anything else. But India is the largest population that speaks and reads English. In fact, I just got a client the other day. She's working on a cookbook, a travel healthy cookbook. She's from India. She wanted to know how she could get her readers from America and how she could publish there. But and then you got Britain, you got Australia, you got New Zealand. So how do you get your books there? They can't. Yeah. There is some Amazon there, but there's also different Kindle type things in all these different countries, and they're not always Kindle. And 70% of the books in the United States are read off Amazon, but that's not true of every other country. And also, Ingram Spark will help you get your books into bookstores in those other countries. So you can get them into like a British bookstore or an Australian bookstore. And then you got Draft to Digital, which will help you get your EPUB books across the different countries, and also into libraries, where libraries will buy your books. So you go wider than just Amazon. You think a little bit outside the box. And then the next,
we have book clubs here on our own site, that we're trying to expand people's libraries, so SOFREP has a book club, and books can fall in. I mean, it's just really, like you said, it's a broad, you're trying just to like splatter it.
Yep. And you just want to make it available wherever people might be interested. And Germany is a bit like getting it translated. Like, hey, you got an ebook, you got a hardback, and you got an Audible. There's some people that only listen to books nowadays. There's some people that only read on their Kindle. So that's three books. If you wrote one book, you wrote three books. Translated into Germany, which is the next biggest language that's got readers. Now you got 4 books, and you got 3 of those. You got the hardback, EPUB, and Audible in German, and you paid for a
different cover.
6 books.
Yeah. My buddy Brandon that runs SOFREP, author, same thing. He's gone down that social media, has that, always pushing out, his Steel Fear, Cold Fear books, his novels, his new one coming out, Blind Fear. He's always pushing those out there. He's also in Spain, living there, like you, and he is hustling, dude. He's putting it out there, he's like, check out the books. And I was blessed, fortunate, I don't know how you want to put it, to do to be the character. I'm the voice of all of his books. And so of Chief Finn, this Navy SEAL that goes all around the world and gets into all these different circumstances, and so that he gets out of or gets into whatever. And it's like, that is another book, and there's Audible out there, right? And so some people, I mean, dude, what if you can't, like, what if you're blind and you want to listen to the book? That's another reach to that whole market of people who would like to listen.
Yep. I mean,
40% to your book.
Of the people, I mean, I think it's growing every day, but like 40% of people are listening to their books now more than anything. And then on top of that, we got the next step, which is you, the author, distribute your books. So you get the Audible version, the audio version, not Audible, audio. You get it done. Either you hire someone to do it for you, or you do it yourself, and you put it on your webpage. So they can just download it onto their phone or device, and you get all the profit. No one else. You can just do it there. You can just Shopify on your website, you sell it, and then they download it, and you're making the whole profit. You're not giving 60% to anyone. And then you also can do the ebook same way. They can do the ebook through BookFunnel. They'll take 10%, but they manage it all, so they can distribute it. Like if you want Apple Book or Kindle or Barnes & Noble, whatever the Barnes & Noble book is, you can distribute it that way, and they'll have all the formats for you. And then, so they'll manage all that, and they'll also manage the purchases, and you just pay 10%. So now you're getting 90% of your profit. And then the same thing with, now they got this thing called Book Vault, and it's only in the US and the UK right now, but Book Vault will basically print on demand your books, and they do really good, just like Amazon, good quality books, good quality cover, everything. You give them all this stuff, print on demand your books, send it wherever, and they take 10% of your profit. And they manage all that just like Amazon would, but they don't take 30%. They take 10%. So, and now this goes to say that you can't not put it on Amazon, because 70% of the people are buying their stuff from Amazon. But you make it available on Amazon, but you sell it in other places, and you direct everyone to your website, and you explain to them, like, I'm an author. If you buy it on Amazon, which is fine, that's available on Amazon, I lose 20% of my profits. Or, if you don't mind waiting a couple of days for it, or if you want to buy my ebook or my Audible my audiobook here, I'll make more of the profit, which will give me more money to invest in time to make more books for you. And so you kind of try to explain that in the back of your book and on your website, and you direct all your social media to your website. So you're doing direct distribution to your readers.
Right. And that makes total sense, because you're going to make the majority of the money, but you still need to be kind of splattered out there with, the Amazon and the Barnes and Nobles. And if you can get on those sites to upload your stuff, just know they have that fee. But also know that you're also getting kind of a machine to help market you. And whether or not they buy on Amazon or they get directed back to your shop, it's okay to be on there. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's best to be a little bit of everywhere, just to get your name out there, but hopefully redirects them back to their site, or come buy it from, Rad's website, or sofrep.com, if you will. And Brandon does that, actually. He says you can come buy his book at his website. You can get his Audible at his website, or you can get them on the regular. People have memberships to Audible. So he's obviously going to be on there because they already have a membership.
Yep, absolutely. No, I mean, but these all take time away from writing, right?
Yep.
So a lot of authors, like, I don't want to be involved in that stuff. I was like, all right, you don't have to be involved in that stuff. But here you go. Publishers are not guaranteed. Publishers, some people, as you know, you can read all the famous authors, Stephen King and J.K. Rowling. You know, how long did it take them to find their first publisher, even their first agent? Really? Sometimes. So they're, sending stuff out, query letters. Sometimes they get some back. Sometimes they don't get anything back. And they're just trying to find someone to represent them to go to a publisher. And it just takes that much time when you could have your book out there in a month and be making money. Mm-hmm. And really, the marketing is going to come from you. Most of the marketing is going to come from you anyway. So it's just another way to look. Now, here's the difference, though. If you go to a publisher, you got a better chance of getting in a bookstore. You got a better chance of being in the airport. I don't know how many people are going to bookstores and airports to buy their books nowadays. Well, I buy almost all my books on Kindle nowadays. But the thing is that's something like, if that was your dream, so you walk in Barnes and Noble and say, "There's my book," and that walk into an airport. Like I remember Scott Mann taking a picture when he walked by his book in an airport. He's like, "That's my book." If that's something you really want to do, you need to go towards the publishing route, because it's hard. It's getting easier. Like there's a Barnes and Noble section that's like, "Hey, top rated TikTok books, self-published," and they got the books there.
It's crazy.
Right? But there's only one section of that, and then the rest of the book is normally published books. So that's definitely something that will affect whether you actually, if people are going to a bookstore, whether they're going to find your book or not. And that's why you have to use social media to make them aware of it.
And that's where you see these authors, these high profile names that I'm following, that I'm in the world with, and they're signing books at the airport and like, "Hey, check it out. My latest book, Sunset Night, signed by me right here, the author. I've got 3 of them at this airport. So if you come by the terminal, make sure you buy them." And his social media is showing, "I've got 3 books at this airport that are signed by me." And so people will probably, the person I'm thinking of, he's very popular in the culture of writing books right now, especially he's got TV series going on and everything. But, he sees his poster in the airport, takes a picture of it. "Look I'm in the airport," or whatever the case is. He's just driving sales. He's still driving you to the book by going there and signing it. You're still going into the airport bookstore now and buying that. Or the Barnes and Noble. A friend of mine wrote a book called Border Wars. He's a former Borstar agent, and he's doing that. He's at Barnes & Noble. He's like, "Check it out. Signing it. Rocco, Vincent Vargas. Come get my book at Barnes & Noble." And go get his book, by the way, Borderline or Border Wars at Barnes & Noble. Vincent Vargas. Go get that. I'm going to give him a simple plug right now since we're talking about authors.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you got to kind of be everywhere and dynamic and outside the box thinking, you do need all these social media platforms going, and you do need to be engaging with your followers, and you need to reply and say, "Hey, thanks." Or even a little heart liking their comment goes so far to the people following you. Like, "Oh my gosh, you just paid attention to me out of all these other people." Well, you made a comment. So maybe you make a promise to yourself that if someone makes a comment on a post, you'll like it. Or, you don't have to comment. You can just like it. Just go in and be active with your social media so you keep your following. So if you do write your book, you can just point them right to your book, and they'll share your book, and then they'll share your book. And it's the whole domino effect of sharing in social media. It's getting that FYP hashtag for your page, popping up. It's like, "Oh, someone hit me up. Rad. You just keep popping up on my TikTok all the time." And I'm like, "Well, you must like 46-year-old bearded men."
It's hard to be this, like I said earlier, writers just want to be writers, and they don't, some of them, like, especially the older ones, are like, "I don't want to deal with the social media stuff." And in fact, there's one of the Colleen Hoover, what I was talking about, she's made millions with her books. Like she wrote 2 books a year for like the last 10 years or something like that. And they're all multi-million bestsellers. She hasn't written a book in almost 2 years. She lives on a ranch in Texas. And they did an interview with her. And she's like, "Sometimes I feel bad because I have all these people that love my books and I feel like I'm letting them down. However, in the last couple of years, the social media, the evil social media, it just hurts you. It just hammers you. You write a book, you're proud of the book, you spent time, energy, your soul in this book, and I know I have probably more people that love this book than don't, but then there's those people that come on and just jab you, and it hurts. And I don't want to deal with it. I don't want my kids to deal with it, And so it's a tough balance. For her, it was a PTSD moment, but every writer's got to have this balance. And you don't have to be on every freaking social media. Maybe you master one, Instagram or TikTok or whatever you're going to master, right? But you just got to have a little bit of tough skin, because you're inevitably going to have people that just don't appreciate what you're doing, or just don't like one thing you did in there that's is a taboo thing, and things like that. The biggest problem I see is that they shoot, I forgot what I was going to say, but you were going to say something. I saw you.
No. What I was just thinking, I was agreeing with you mentally that, if people are going to be out there and they're just focusing on their lane, if it's Instagram or if it's TikTok, and I was just like agreeing, like, there are people who do really well in just one medium, and they have like 100, 200, 300,000 followers, 50,000 followers on that one avenue, and it's doing great. Right. I was just thinking about it. Sometimes people tell you, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I'm like, well, I kind of do put all my eggs in one basket. I just set up claymores around it and Overwatch around that. And then I got snipers up in here, and they're all watching the basket.
Yeah. That's the thing about going wide, right? When you go to Ingram Spark and you get your book everywhere else, and your Ingram Spark will also put it on Apple Books for you, and BarnesandNoble.com, and all these other avenues where people are reading. It's like 10 or 15% of people are just reading on Apple Books, and not reading on Kindle. The problem with Amazon is there's been authors who've had problems where someone stole their book and said, it's my book. He copied my book. And then you have to prove to Amazon that you wrote the book, especially if you're an independent author. You didn't go through a publisher, right? And that takes months, years. Sometimes it's taken years, and your book's not making any money while it's doing that. And so you have to move that book somewhere. If it wasn't anywhere else, no one's reading it. If it's just on Kindle, if you just go Kindle, right? And the other thing is the article I said, are you familiar with Kindle Unlimited?
Yeah, it's where you can just get everything on it, right?
Well,
Kindle.
It's not everything, but authors can choose to put it on Kindle Unlimited. They get paid by the number of pages you read. And so usually it's less than what if you sold it for $10, you probably get a lot less money. But the thing is, the book publishers don't normally put their published books on Kindle Unlimited. Because if they did that, then basically Amazon would become Netflix for books, and you'd pay one fee and you'd read everything, and everyone would get paid a lot less money. So they've been purposely keeping that away from Amazon, because then that would give them too much power.
So, okay, let's say this. Okay, if you are someone who's written a book and you're like, I got to get it out there. No one's picking me up. I've talked to authors who took like 2 to 4 years to get someone to finally take a look at their manuscripts that they were sending out to people, right? They get rejected. Finally, someone took them, read it, said, we'll take it. That's kind of a hard thing. But somebody has access to uploading it to, their own website or their own Amazon account and get it listed. Do you need a UPC code for Amazon if you're having your own book? Is that how you have to upload it with a UPC, because it has to have a barcode? And then B, does a publicist or a publisher want to see you already uploading your book without them involved? Would they rather upload the book and do all of that first? So I guess my question is, if you're an independent author, and you're writing your own book, do you take the risk to throw it out there and promote it yourself? Or do you take the risk to sit on it and try to hatch it to a publicist and a publisher?
So you're coming in a little broken, but what I understood is what are the dangers of you publishing by yourself kind of things? And you need an ISBN number. You can purchase ISBN numbers online. You can just search for ISBN. You can buy them. for, I don't know, they're not too cheap, but they're not too expensive. And you can buy them in packets too. If you find out if you're going to buy 10 books, you can buy 10 at a time and get a discount. And there's one company that sells them. It's very shady, in my opinion.
Monopolized. But, yes, me too.
But they sell these ISBNs, and you have to buy a different ISBN for your printed books, your ebooks, and your audiobooks. And also, if you print on Amazon, Amazon will give you an Amazon ISBN number that'll represent it. You can also register a copyright if you want. I don't know how many people are doing that. I don't know a whole lot about the copyright thing, so I don't want to tell any bad information here. But you can get all that information. You can register the copyright. I've had authors do that. You can do it by email, I think, and you have to wait a couple of weeks. The thing about the books is it's not necessarily that you won't ever be able to prove that the book's yours if someone says that you stole their book and stuff like that. It's whether Amazon has the personnel to dedicate time to your problem, because they have a lot of these and they also have other problems. So you're next in line. You're like in the VA telephone roster. We're going to call you when we're finished, right? So I mean, I don't want to talk about the VA, but sometimes the VA takes a long time. So
yes.
So basically, you just in communication by email a lot of times with somebody saying, "What's going on? What can I do? What do you need?" And nothing's progressing. And I haven't had this experience with any of my authors yet, fortunately, but I've read about them in different Facebook groups, in this 20 books to 50K Facebook group and some other things. So I know it's out there. I just don't know how prevalent it is. But it's been like the lesson learned by everyone was don't just have everything here. Now, the problem is your ebook, if it's on Kindle Unlimited, can't be anywhere else. But your written books, your paperback and hardback can. And then as long as you're in Kindle Unlimited, you can't have an ebook anywhere else. That's part of the contract you sign with them. And you have to do a minimum of 90 days. So you just have to keep that in mind.
No, those are the little hurdles that are out there that you can provide if people reach out to you. And your website is militaryeditor.com, correct?
Yeah.
And you're here for people to be reached out to. This is what you want. You want folks to hit you up and get involved and engage you in conversation and talk to you about, their ideas or their book. And, like you said, you'll look at it, you'll give them your best, and you like working with veterans. Like you said, 50% of the people you work with are kind of veterans, right?
So yeah, militaryeditor.com is my webpage. I also give, especially to veterans, if you write me like, hey, I just don't know where to go next. I got a great idea. It's hard. I mean, the most important thing I can tell you is write a first draft. And I know it's old advice, but as an editor, until I see your first draft, I can't help you fix it. As a book coach, if you haven't written anything, if you've written half of it, you need to finish it, and we'll change it. Just accept that it'll be changed, but at least you got it finished and we can move stuff around and add things to it and we know what we need. If you got an idea, I can help you outline it and I can walk you through writing each chapter if you want. And then some people like that. Some people want the accountability. They show up every week. They write a chapter. I look at the chapter. I got some notes. We have a conversation about it and we move on to the next chapter. It's not for people that don't have a lot of money, though. People are paying me a lot of money to meet with me and give me their chapters every week. That's someone That's either a really good friend or a really expensive book coach.
And I would tell you, I want to ask this question. What if I was just more of a softer person and I wanted to write maybe a picture book with a few words on it for like a children's series, just like, See Sam. And is that something that you would also say, hey, this seems like a good idea. It's got 12 pages, but it's right to the point of how to go potty.
So you're coming in and out. So a children's book.
Oh, am I coming in and out? Is this better right now? You got me right now?
Yeah.
I guess what I'm talking about is if somebody wants to write a children's book, like with just like 12 or 15 pages, is that something that you'll help look at as well? Not so intense, like a, Jack Carr novel.
Yeah. So I don't specialize in that. There's people that specialize in children's books. And I think there's an art to that I have never searched for or learned or trained in. So I would not, but I have peers that do that. So if someone came to me with that, I'd listen to what they have to say, and then I'd recommend it to one of my peers. And then also, I'll just start with that. I'll listen to anyone for 30 minutes. You can sign up on my webpage, write in there what your deal is, and then I'll send you maybe a questionnaire. We'll get on for 30 minutes, and I'm like, all right, this is what I think you should do. Or, and if you don't want to work with me, if you want to work with a woman, I have peers that are women. If you want to work with a non-military person, because you don't want that, because I give military flavor to everything. That's why I work mostly with vets, but I work with a lot of civilians as well. So that's fine. If you're a guy, a girl getting out of the military, I'm working with 4 interns right now with the SkillBridge program. Just go to your Soldier for Life courses. Say, hey, I want to get into SkillBridge, and I'm on the SkillBridge list as my company's called the Story Ninja. And so you'll find me there as the Story Ninja, and you can write me. That's right. And you can write me, and I'll chop your story up, and then we can start an internship, whether it's a writer or if you want to be an editor. If you did 20 years in the Army, like I did 32, and you said, I don't want to work for the man anymore, I want to work for myself. How do I start an editing business? I will show you my journey and share with you everything I know. And I still have guys and gals that I mentored 2 or 3 years ago that still hit me up. They did the 3 months with me, and they still go, hey, I just got this client. This is my problem. What do I do? And then we'll get on a call and I'll talk through it. But I have no problem doing that with any of those guys.
I think this is one of my best conversations I've had in a very, very, very long time, and right to the point of how to write. I get hit up all the time, and I'm so glad you brought this skill and this mindset to the show today. And I'm thankful for Jim introducing me to you as well, so that we could have this conversation. And I want to thank you for taking your time over in Spain, which I don't even know what time it is there right now. It's probably 7 hours ahead or something along those lines. And so thank you from the future or from the past. I'm the past, right? You're the future. I'm glad Jim hooked us up, because I've always tried to figure out how I'm going to talk to vets and get them to join my internship. Even if you're not getting out and you just whatever you're doing right now is not cutting it, and you think you want to be a writer, give me a shout and I'll talk to you about it. If you want to be an editor and you want to learn, I've helped other guys, mostly SF guys that I know. They're like, what are you doing? I don't want to do this contracting stuff anymore. I don't want to be away from my family. I was like, well, I work from home. I work as much or little as I want. If I want to go on, if I want to go drive to Greece for 2 months, then I'll work up to that point, take 2 months off, or maybe I'll work in Greece if my wife will let me. Right. Right. She'll let you. She will. Bring the laptop. It's okay. Wi-Fi's everywhere now. That's a beautiful thing. Almost everywhere.
That's right. Yeah. So, I have no idea sharing. I have no problem sharing all my knowledge. I just there's more than enough people out there who want to write a book that if I train another editor, I'm not taking business away from myself. I never felt like that. No. Never felt like that in the Army either. Like, hey, I'm trying to do better than this so I can get promoted. I never felt like that in the military. And so I didn't want to feel like that when I got out. And also if there's more than enough people out there who want to be writers and just want to write better, then I'll give them a hand.
I love that. And I'm going to give you a plug again for militaryeditor.com. And your last name, I'm going to say it right. Randall Surles, correct?
That's
right. Right here. You have been a great brightness in my life. And I just want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for being SF and being of that cloth. I want to thank you for reaching out and helping other people who may not realize they want the help, and you're there to help them as a coach and as the editor. And bro, I'm really so thankful to have had this interview. So thank you very much. And I guess I'm going to wind down the show now. So listen, SOFREP.com, SOFREP Radio. We have a merch store. We have a book club, and it's SOFREP.com/book-club. One more shout out to Jim Johnson. You know where you're at. You know who you are, sir. Thank you for the hookups. And I look forward to your feedback on this episode when it comes out. With that said, on behalf of Randy, I want to say peace from all of us here at SOFREP.
You've been listening to SOFREP Radio.